Ryan Ofei is an award-winning Christian artist who has not only toured with Maverick City and top Christian artists, but he also has one of the purest hearts in the industry. He is proof that you can grow to the highest heights and not lose your humility.
How you get in the door is how you're going to stay there. And so for a lot of us, the door opened because of your private devotion and your love for the Lord and your humility and your servitude. And none of those things need to get lost because he's elevated you. And I think sometimes we get it twisted that, oh, I'm in a new place, so I have to become a different person.
Ooh.
You have to grow further into the person that first got you there and who God is calling you to be.
Whether you're in the music business or not, this conversation will inspire you to build God's way. Welcome to the Faithustle podcast. I am so excited for today's conversation. My name is Makwenda. I'm your host. Been an entrepreneur for almost 10 years. And on this show, we get the opportunity to interview high-level entrepreneurs, content creators, people who have done excellent things in the marketplace that are building their business God's way. That is our mission. That is our heart, to show you that it's possible, to give you examples of what it looks like to build God's way. And we have interviewed so many different people, almost 70 people at this point, of people from investors to online business gurus to content creators, construction, all across the board. But the one thing we actually have never done is a songwriter or a recording artist. And today I have someone that is not just an incredible award-winning worship recording artist, formerly a part of Maverick City, but is making waves with his own solo albums and music, is doing incredible things, mixing Afro beats and worship, and all across the board is crushing it. He is a dear friend to me. We have been friends for a few years now. He's become a true brother. Honestly, he's the reason I'm at the church I'm at, and he has just been a consistent friend. He is a friend of this show, and I can't wait to have him share with you his journey and experience. Welcome to the show, Ryan Ofei.
Thank you, my brother.
We finally made it.
Yeah, man, I've been praying and fasting on a mountain to end up here. So thank you. Seriously, I didn't know I was the first artist slash songwriter, but I'm humbled, and you're obviously a great person, great friend, but you're also so good at what you do. And so this is special, very special. I'm grateful.
Dude, so special. And it's cool to actually, I think this fall will mark 2 years of our friendship. We met 2 years ago.
Yes.
At a conference in Michigan.
In Detroit. Yeah.
And shout out to Detroit. And you were just about to move here from Canada with your wife. And it's just crazy how it happened. But yeah, you're the first artist we've had.
Let's go.
And he literally was like, man, I'm offended you haven't asked me.
Yeah. I was like, well, I'm not good enough. It's so funny. I'm definitely pulling your leg, but I'm super grateful, bro.
Oh, dude, I listen, you have been on my list for a long time.
For sure.
But with friendships, I really have learned this principle of you develop friendships for the friendships.
Yeah.
And not from the foundation of a transactional thing. Because
Absolutely.
I've had that and I've done that. And I'm like, I never really appreciate those relationships. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like, hey, if there's opportunity that comes, amazing. So it worked out. I'm so thankful, and man. But you also travel a ton, and so I'm glad you're home now for a little bit.
This month has been very relaxed, so I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. The dates work out, everything just feels right. Yeah.
And then when you travel, I always joke. You travel internationally like I travel domestically. Where I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to Michigan, or I'm going to here. It's like, yeah, I'm just going to London for a hot second. Going to Ghana, I'll be right back. I'm like, what?
It's all about how you view it. I mean, a flight is a flight. You sleep, you wake up.
Yeah.
You mean there's a different time zone and all that, but
but your passport ain't getting stamped. You know?
It's stamped. It's seen a lot of life.
It's seen a lot of life, man.
For sure.
Dude, but I want to get into your journey. Like I said before, it's crazy to see God's handling. I think the first song I saw you on was The Blood Is Still the Blood.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, that was the first one with Chandler.
And Nicole
Binion. Legendary family.
Yeah.
And that song, if I think about it too much, I'll cry. And I remember you had this spontaneous line like, you mark under my doorpost. And there was a Passover. I was like, oh, this brother's biblical. He's out. And that was the first song. And then I started singing like Be Praised and some of the other songs on Tribal and stuff. And then obviously you start singing your solo. So I think Celebrate, I think was the first solo thing I saw you do. And I'm like, hold up. This is a vibe.
Yeah.
I can rock with this, man. And man, it's just been a cool. So you've collaborated with so many incredible artists.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear your journey. Like, how'd you get here?
Yeah. I mean, all over the place, really. Started off being born in the UK, moved to Ghana when I was 2, moved to Columbus, Ohio, turned 6 there.
I didn't know you were in Ohio.
Yeah, I lived in Columbus, Ohio. So I started singing in Ghana. Like I told my mom, like, hey, I really want to sing. Yeah. She gave me the opportunity. It must have been good or decent. Or maybe she just had mom goggles on. It's hard to know at this point.
I mean, clearly, she knew what she was talking about.
Well, she was like my main supporter. So when we got to our church in Columbus, which was like a predominantly Ghanaian church, it was very small at the time, but it's now grown to be like a massive church. They were like holding auditions for choir members, and she's like, hey, my son can sing. And they're like, ma'am, like respectfully, we're looking for real singers. And she's like, hey, if he's not good, you could just turn him down. And they loved it. And so I started singing at that church every week.
Dang.
Then we moved to Canada when I was about 10 years old.
Okay.
And so we lived in a bunch of cities in Canada. We lived in Hamilton. We lived in Milton. I went to church in Toronto. I moved to Carleton, which was in Ottawa, for university. So I was just kind of bouncing around a lot as a young man, just really trying to find myself, trying to figure out, hey, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing? You know, I loved sports. I loved creativity.
What sport do you play?
I played some football. I played running back.
All right, now.
I used to run track too, played rugby. So I loved everything. I love sports.
I could definitely see you docking somebody. I could see you.
I love sports. Like, Chris and I, till this day, still watch sports. And
why did I not know that about you? That's actually dope.
I love sports. And just like watching it, being a part of it, of course. So I really had a crossroad. Like, hey, what am I going to do? Who am I going to be? Growing up, I used to draw pictures of like characters for people in my elementary school and sell it for like $1.
Hey, okay.
I used to write stories about my class, and my teacher would read it to the class. Like, this is our study time or reading time.
Yeah.
So looking back, I recognize I see everything God was doing from like being a child and writing and all these. So these were the passions that I had. And when I entered into university, y'all would call it college.
Uni.
When I started at uni, that's when I really started to just pursue. I was still studying, so I was studying business, I was studying poli-sci, but I really started to pursue music, and it became ministry as well. And so that's really that's how it really started out for me. I kind of went through a bunch, but that's how it really started out for me, and how I got into it. Yeah.
No, that's dope. Okay, so because I was curious, because I know you had been singing since you were young.
Yeah.
But did you have like a specific moment of like, you're like, I feel like I'm called to this? Like, was it one moment, or was it like just over time, or?
Yeah. So when I got into uni, it was really a time of, I think I was really finding myself, figuring myself out. I'd lived with my parents up until that point. But it was a time to really just figure out, who am I? You know, who am I, and what is the Lord calling me to? And so I'd been going to church, but I was really just making R&B music in my dorm room with my boys.
Oh, that's actually dope.
It was cool.
Was it good stuff?
I think so. I think it was cool.
What were y'all singing about?
Well, we were doing like some covers. It was just like love, just some good
like
music.
Mario, like that type of vibe. Yeah, I got you.
Just that kind of vibe. And so, honestly, on my 19th birthday, we took a trip to Montreal. It was for a party. So Montreal, for perspective, is 2 hours east of Ottawa. It's like really cold. My birthday is January 31st.
Gotcha.
So there's a lot of snow everywhere. It's really a blizzard. And because we're students, we should have probably stayed out there, but we decided to come back because we're like, man, we can't pay for the hotel, you know? So on the way back, we almost died in a car accident
Oh,
because an
snap.
18-wheeler truck tried to overtake us and started skidding towards us.
Whoa.
And so we were, by the grace of God, it was as if an angel just like moved our car out the way. But there's 5 of us in the car. We literally start breaking down, crying, just thanking God,
Wow.
repenting, like, Lord,
Dang.
whatever it is you want
No
us to
more
do.
R&B. No more love music.
Lord, I'm done. You know, I'd been running though. And I think there was something about a near-death experience that just was very sobering. It was, I start to ask myself, hey, what would life be if today was your last day? What would the impact have been? What would people say about you? How would your family have felt? And would you have made the utmost of everything that God poured into you? And so that was really a turning point for me. The next week we went on a church encounter. I just let go of a lot of things, received forgiveness, stepped into freedom and healing. And so the song Celebrate is really talking about that. When you hear On the Wrong Road, I knew I'd gone too far. I could hear the voice of my Father, Blessed Redemption, and it goes on and on. So it's talking about that story. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
Man,
yeah.
I always, like, they're always like, there's little crumbs in songs and stuff. Dang, I didn't catch it. I've listened to that a lot of times. I did not catch that. That's awesome.
Yes, sir.
Man, okay, so just, you have that near-death experience. Yeah. That is a turning point. And so you're like, okay, worship, getting into music. Yeah. So you start doing it for your church?
I started leading at my church, started writing songs with my church. And I really never saw it as anything outside of that at that point, honestly, because I just was grateful for where he took me from, and I loved music. So marrying the two was like, hey, this is what I'm called to do.
Yeah.
And so I was serving, I was writing songs, leading, worship, pastoring, all the things, and just growing in that day by day. And I just loved it. I was like, all right, this is where I'm at. You know? And it wasn't until a little later that, so let's say all of that happened 2013-ish. It wasn't until like 2019 that I was like, oh, let me put out a single. I really just felt led. Like, hey, let me put
all the way
something
until
out.
2019.
Yeah.
Really?
So before that, I hadn't written Christian music. Like it was so foreign to me. So the Lord was really working on me throughout those years. I was growing in my faith. I was growing in my witness. I was growing in anointing, growing practically as well as my songwriting. And so in 2019, I put out my first song, which was No Limits. And I was like, oh, people are really rocking with this. I put out another song, which was Jehovah. And
that went crazy.
It went crazy. I mean, by my standards for sure. And things kind of opened up. So I led worship at a church in Paris. I led worship at a church in New York. I went back to Columbus and led worship at the church I grew up in.
Dang.
And so I was like, man, God, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I was grateful. I mean, I was still working a job, but I was doing that on like the weekends. And then the pandemic hit. And that was a massive catalyst because it almost felt like everything came to a standstill.
Right.
And I'm asking myself, where am I supposed to like lead? Or like, what church can I go to if everything's closed down? And how can I put out music? And things that felt like they were so clear started to look so muddy. And it was in that season I heard the Lord tell me to go and start writing with this girl. Her name was Grace. And it was someone my producer had introduced me to. And so I reached out to her. Well, it was actually right before the pandemic hit, because I remember when I reached out to her, she said she's social distancing. And I was like, I have no idea what that is. I was like,
you weren't sure what that
I was like, I don't know what this is. And I don't know why we're taking it so serious. Because if you remember, there were years prior where there were a lot of diseases.
Yeah.
And none of them ever became enough to make you stay home.
No.
So when I heard her say that, I was like, you really believe this, huh?
It's like, you're one of those.
You're really like, and I mean, it was way more serious than I thought. The pandemic was obviously a big deal.
Yeah.
So I was home for months. Canada was really shut down. Like the US was like shut down. No, Canada
Texas was barely shut down.
Canada was like, you're not leaving, you're not coming in. It was like very difficult. And they were like, if you had to quarantine for whatever reason, sometimes police would come and check on you. It was like a real thing. But all that being said, I started writing with her, and we would write a song like every day, every couple days. And one day she's like, hey, I want to send these songs off to Tony. And I was like, I don't know who that is. And Tony just happened to be the head of Maverick City Music. So Tony and JJ, they loved the songs that we were writing. And they're like, hey, we believe in what you guys are doing. We want you to come to Atlanta. We want you to record and write with us. So went to Atlanta and we did a camp of like 4 days maybe. I met some really awesome people. I met Nate Diaz there.
Yeah.
Some of my closest friends till this day. Obviously got a chance to connect even more with like Chandler, Dante, Naomi, all the people who are really pillars of Maverick City. But on the last day or the second last day, they're like, hey, Ofei, go record this song, The Blood is Still the Blood. And I was like, that's awesome. But I don't know this song. It's a new song. It's a song that they've written. I believe they wrote with Tasha Cobbs. And they're like, well, the lyrics are going to come up. Chandler's going to play the melody. Just sing. And
do you didn't have time to practice?
No.
Really?
That was my first time hearing the song. I was hearing it in real time. Yeah, I was hearing it in real time. So Chan literally plays dun, 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 and the lyrics are there and I just read it. And it's so funny, but I'm happy.
That's wild.
But I'm happy I took advantage of that and didn't like back down in fear, like, oh, I can't do it. I was like, this is a real challenge. Like, I just met y'all.
Yeah.
And now I'm singing a song I don't know. And so I'm like literally pulling from the depths of my spirit. Lord, I need revelation for this song as we're talking about the blood. And so it's
and you caught it. And you would have never known.
100%.
And I've heard stories of those writing camps of like literally like y'all being literally camped out in Airbnbs.
Yeah.
You come out writing and then, hey, you're recording and like that.
Boom.
And it's obviously that was such a different, they pioneered a whole different process and the speed of it is just, was just crazy. But I think I always try to pull lessons from these conversations for anyone listening. I think one thing that anyone can take, especially if you feel a call to music, is being ready and being positioned.
Yeah.
That like, one, you just stewarded the season you were in of like learning to lead worship, learning to write. And then when the opportunity came, like what you had built up, like those seasons were not a waste. Like had you not stewarded the seasons where quote unquote you were hidden.
For sure.
You know, when the time came of like, God's like, all right, hey, it's time.
Yeah.
You probably wouldn't have been in position. It's like, I think a lot of us, we want God use us, but like we're not even stewarding the time right now because we so crave that moment, that thing. But like, if you're, I can imagine how many songs you wrote that maybe have never seen the light of day, but that's just stretching that muscle.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really valuable takeaway.
Yeah. Of
like, be in a posture where you're ready.
Yeah. For
whenever God says yes, you know?
Yeah, because he's not on our timeline.
Yeah.
I think so early on when I was making music and started writing, I thought the first thing I'd put out would just go crazy. I was like, I'm going to put something out and everybody's going to know.
This is going to change the world.
And I had to grow in that and get to the place of maturity, which was I do this because I love him and I feel called. And if nobody hears it, I know I'm still doing the right thing. And if everybody hears it, I'm going to still keep this posture. And so it really got me to a place where I was like, Lord, I'm doing all the things that I'm doing not for the big break. I'm doing them because I love you. And so it was just a really holy place. And I think that the Lord got an opportunity to work on me, take things out, add things in, and really make me who he needed me to be. Some things, if you get them prematurely, would destroy you. And so it's really just, it was his kindness, man. Being hidden was his grace and his mercy on display, honestly.
Facts. Christian entrepreneurs, creators, dreamers, it's our time. We're sounding the alarm. Doing business the world's way is broken. Hustle culture is killing us. God is raising up a generation to build differently, to build his way. We're the new innovators, the visionaries, the builders. We're not chasing greed. We're building the kingdom. No more being in silos. It's time for us to gather. That's why we created the Faithustle Tour, a night designed just for you. A night to network, to learn, and to grow. You'll learn from proven kingdom leaders who are scaling their businesses God's way. Like my friend Donnie, she built a 7-figure beauty brand in 5 months. Or my friend Marty, he went from 1 restaurant to 10 with 700 employees. Or my friend Albanier, who took his wisdom and human behavior and is reaching millions of people around the world. All these people and more are here to pour into you. This isn't just about business. Every ticket purchase funds a clean water well in West Africa and Sri Lanka. The movement is happening, and it's going to take all of us. The question is, are you coming? Like, I even think of my journey of starting Faithustle, like, I mean, for 10 years, I mean, I made content, but never to this volume or anything like that.
Yeah.
And anytime I would even try, the Holy Spirit's like, nope, not yet, not yet. Keep serving.
Yeah.
Keep getting discipled. Keep being faithful.
Yes,
and obviously there were tough moments, but like I feel like you never appreciate hidden seasons until when God is ready.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, thank God you didn't put me out there when I wanted it.
I would have self-destructed.
Oh my God, I would have been just awful. It's
sure.
you know, like
For
character wise, or just even experience certain relationships. Like God, like you said, the timing of the Lord is perfect. But I love what you said, and that the thing that I admire the most about you is, and I meant to say this in the beginning, is the purity that you carry in your heart. Because listen, so I play drums. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we do worship together at Shoreline,
yes, sir.
Which is so fun. But like, I've been playing probably since I was, I don't know, 12 at different churches and stuff. Right. Man, that's the one thing that I have seen get attacked the most with people in worship of like wrong motives. Mm-hmm. Honestly, just impure lifestyles, just living, just repeated sin, and having this like desire to be seen, to be known, my brand, my song, my.
Yeah.
And I mean, part of this is why we're having you here. Like, I mean, this is your full-time career. Like, you make your living, support your family.
Yep.
Singing and leading worship, and that can we are seeing publicly a lot.
Yeah.
The consequences when you mix both those worlds, it can do well because we have examples of people who've done it well, and then you have examples of people who've done it poorly.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, it just gets really muddy really quick, and it's like, hold up, did we miss the point? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I'd love to hear, like, obviously I want to keep going on your journey. I'd love to hear, how do you maintain that? Because I'll say this, it's one thing to be like, why I appreciate you is like, it's one thing to maintain your posture of purity and like, you're not that well known or it's, you know, maybe it's not going, you know, the spotlight's not really on, but it's like, no, like you've toured, you've done stadium tours.
Yeah.
Were you on the Kirk Franklin one?
I was.
You're on the Kirk Franklin one. You know what I mean? Y'all doing whole stadiums.
Yep.
Like you're doing albums, you're songwriting with insane people winning awards, all these different things. Yeah. And I still see the same individual that is like,
that's real,
chasing after God. Like, I've gotten to know you behind the scenes, all this different stuff. So like, how can someone maintain that?
Yeah, I think the first thing for me is how you get in the door is how you're going to stay there.
Woo! So, hold on, say that again.
How you get in the door is how you're going to stay there. And so for a lot of us, the door opened because of your private devotion and your love for the Lord and your humility and your servitude. And none of those things need to get lost because he's elevated you. And I think sometimes we get it twisted that, oh, I'm in a new place, so I have to become a different person. Ooh. You have to grow further into the person that first got you there and who God is calling you to be. And so I think that just staying grounded and keeping the main thing and having that heart of purity, it's massive because pride really does come before the fall.
Yeah.
And so if it seeps into your heart and you start to treat people different and act different and behave different, and soon it's like a plane that's just a little tilted but it was heading for a certain destination, you'll be in a completely different place. And you ask yourself, how did I get here? You know, and I think I've seen that in a lot of people's lives. I think to a lesser extent, I've seen it in my own life. And it's something that I really was like, oh, I want nothing to do with this. You know, there's a way that my parents raised me, in a way that, you know, the word teaches us to live. And I want everything that I do to be aligned to that, because I want to be on the path that leads to life everlasting. And I want to be a blessing. I want to be remembered by my children as someone who, you know, fought the good fight and stood with purity and stood with excellence.
Finished
and stood
well.
with, and you know, and the race that's set before us. And so that's really the thing that keeps me every single day. It's crazy because I have a song that says daily, but it's the realization that we need him daily. I think the moment we take our eyes off of him and we say, well, I could wake up and sing. You know, I could wake up and there's certain things that God has gifted you so much so that you can wake up and do them. But it's the realization that I need him and staying near to that cross and carrying your cross every single day and remembering where he brought you from. Those things keep you in a place of humility, and they keep pride out of your heart. And that just allows you to have longevity in ministry and business and everything that God's called you to. So that's how I view it.
That is, man, if we could just duplicate that in every worship leader and every artist that is a Christian artist, man, I want that to settle in, and hopefully you're listening and you're catching it, because what you said of what got you in the door is you have to keep doing that same thing.
Absolutely.
And it made me think of like even for myself, I have a natural charismatic personality, right? Yep. I'm naturally bubbly. I'm naturally, I can get along with people. It's one of the gifts that God gave me. I realized early on, by my gift, I can get in rooms. I can get in green rooms. I can get people's numbers. I can, for whatever reason, that doesn't necessarily mean those are the rooms I'm supposed to be in.
For sure.
But if I try to work the system, and I'll end up in rooms, I gotta maintain that same energy.
Yeah.
You gotta keep.
There's our charismatic guy.
Exactly.
You gotta be there. You gotta live there.
Exactly. But and because some people, it's like, they can put on a hat of who they're not, to get into a room for an opportunity.
Right.
And I think, like you said, it's dangerous because you'll have to keep playing that game. But if you let God do it, right? Like the Psalms talks about, if the Lord doesn't build the house, the workers labor in vain. It's like, you'll be, it talks about even that chapter of, there's an anxious toil.
Yes.
Like there is, if he's not building it, and specifically worship, because it is different. And it is so holy and it is so precious that if the Lord's not building it, you networking, there's always a cost.
Yeah.
It starts with your own soul. And like you said, like the pride comes before a fall. I think part of the problem is like pride can be a blind side to us that we don't recognize
100%.
it. Other people can,
100%.
but like we don't recognize. So you don't even know you're falling
100%
until it's too late a lot of times. And so I just think that is an incredible warning and just a posture to have. And like I said, I've seen that in you. So I know it's possible.
Yeah.
Right? Like I could have brought on any artist of like, not gonna bring it up, but you know what I mean? Like the reason I wanted to bring you on was because the posture that you've maintained. And I'm seeing, I think it's clear that we're seeing a deficit of that, unfortunately.
Yeah. I think we need to find ways to keep ourselves grounded, keeping high levels of accountability, having the right people in our lives, staying rooted, grounded in our word, being attached to a church. Like I love that we go to the same church. And when we're at church, I may be picking up a chair. I may be throwing out the garbage.
And I've seen it.
I may be praying for somebody. And I love that because it just takes away this whole celebrity mentality that like, oh, everybody's here to serve me. And I think we could just fall into that, being very gifted and, being anointed. And that's my honest take on it, is that you still serve, like still be a brother, still be a friend, still be a husband, still be, and as much as people will serve you, you should also serve people.
That's so good.
And I mean, Jesus said, who's the greatest? You know, he said the one who serves. He washed the feet of his disciples.
That's so good.
And so the fact that we've been elevated doesn't mean that we have to create a world around us that just feeds into our ego.
It caters to us.
Yeah, because it's a path of destruction. It's really like a setup. But when you have been elevated, it's like, okay, well, with all this influence, I'm going to use this to be a blessing. I'm going to use this to lead people to the Lord. I'm going to use this to serve and actually make myself uncomfortable. And I think that losing our comfort is what we're called to do. We're called to a sacrificial life. Present your bodies as a living sacrifice.
Come on.
And so we're called to a life of sacrifice across the board, one where we lay our lives down so that God could be exalted. And so it all ties together, and I think it's the right posture for our generation to take on.
I think you said it beautifully. Because I think there's I think what also gets us tripped up, and this is not just music. This can be any industry, but I think what gets us tripped up is also the models that we follow. Because some people, they don't even have a shot of doing it the right way. If your model of who you're chasing after, whether it's hip hop, R&B, gospel, if that person you're looking up to, they're not grounded, they're not in a local church serving, they haven't placed accountability right. Like I heard John Maxwell, he talks about every leader needs a counterbalance. So like the counterbalance of power is accountability. Yeah. The counterbalance of wealth is generosity. Like you need counterbalances. Yes. It's like, so if you don't have that, if you're not seeing a model of like, if what you're going after is like everyone caters to them, they don't pick nothing up. They feel like everything that's beneath them, and they kind of live that persona of like everyone serves me. Then it's like, you're gonna end up falling in that because you're just following what was, in front of you. And that can be huge in the church world. I remember listening to a clip from Ryan Leak, which obviously we both know Ryan. Shout out to Ryan. Yeah. We're gonna get him on the pod eventually.
Love Ryan Leak, man.
But he I think he was with Carrie Newhoff, and he talked about something that a leader told him. He was like, because he travels the world, speaks with huge corporations, Wells Fargo, the biggest of companies he speaks for, and then he comes home, and so like he does the steak dinners, the 5-star hotels, and then he comes home and is like, you unintentionally expect that same service at your home. And so I guess what coach told him, he was like, you need to mow your own lawn. Yeah. And you need to mop your own floors. Yeah. And so he comes home and he mops his own floor. And obviously that seems like duh. But it's like, I think even that in of itself, that little thing of like, I'm going to do it myself. I know I could pay someone. That might be more efficient of time. But it's almost like I have to put these things in place to remind me, hey, there ain't nothing special. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're not too high and mighty to pick up a mop.
Absolutely.
I think that's really beautiful. Okay, so I want to keep going in the story. I think this is so good. So things are taking off, right? Because the pandemic really blew up that movement. Yeah. Because everybody was home stuck, and so Mav and Tribal, like all these. I remember it felt like every 2 months there was a new album going on. I'm like, how are you writing this much? This is insane.
I had friends. I mean, this is funny to talk about now. I had friends that were like, hey, we love you, but we haven't heard all the songs because like there's a lot of songs coming out. They're like,
we haven't heard enough.
We haven't heard. We're like, we just haven't listened to everything because it's a lot. But it kind of made sense because everybody was home. So it became this intimate worship experience, really through social media and through YouTube. And I mean, I'm grateful for it. I said earlier, I made some really good friends from it. I think I got an opportunity to learn a lot, just rubbing shoulders with peers and mentors. It'll make you better at what you do. Right. So I got an opportunity to learn as a worship leader and learn as a songwriter. And then a little outside of that, Mav went on tour. And so we started doing like arenas and touring like big arenas and big churches. And that was a shattering of my mind because I'd never seen something like that.
Yeah.
So previously, I'm telling you, like I didn't even think that I could be traveling and like doing an event as myself.
Yeah, I mean, 2019 was your first single.
Yeah. But I hadn't seen the gospel on that stage, like Barclays Arena. Like, you get what I'm saying?
Crazy.
Like, pull up in tour buses and sing to 10,000 people.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen worship on that level, much less with people that look like me or are my age or sound like me. And so I think the Lord took me through all that to just tell me, hey, this is more than possible.
Yeah.
This is very possible. And so I'm grateful for all of it. And I know, I mean, countless testimonies and stories of lives changed, but I'm just grateful for all of it, really.
Yeah. And so, I mean, God did all that different stuff, and then you branch out, do your own EPs.
Yeah.
You do your solo album, Restore, which y'all have seen me with the Restore hat plenty of times on this show. It's like my favorite hat. But no, I remember I came to your first tour stop.
Yeah.
Of you being a solo artist in Dallas.
Yeah.
All of Shoreline pulled up.
Yeah.
Which was so fun. And then you did London, you did Toronto. This was like, walk me through that process. And obviously there's a business to music. There's the music business.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear that process of like, when did you know, like, all right, it's time for me to like branch out, do my own thing. You know, obviously there's the favor of God, but obviously there's some strategy there. Like, talk to me like that process is like, all right, I think it's time for me to branch off, do my own thing.
So I love what you said about it being like a music business, and I was alluding earlier, I really had no idea. I was like, man, if you're making Christian music, it's gonna be rough. And seriously, and I prepared myself for that. I was like, I might have to work forever, but I was like, I just love the Lord, and I began to understand that there's strategy and ways that you can obviously work and it can be a business. And I think the crucial thing to keep in mind is that the business serves the ministry, not that the ministry serves the business. And so that's been a crucial thing. And I think it's made it very healthy, because I think sometimes people can view it and be like, it's not healthy because it's generating income, or it's not healthy because it's like, it's popular. And that's like a really popular thought, where people like want to tear down anything that looks successful. Right? Because it's like, well, it's God, so it shouldn't be.
The optics of it. You shouldn't charge to ticket sales to
100%.
Worship.
But I'm learning that to keep advancing the kingdom, it takes resources.
And this ain't free. Barclays is not like, you guys are doing worship, just come on in.
And you want it to be good, and you want it to really represent your Father. And so as you're growing in it, you keep getting nice cameras. Look at this very, very nice mic. It's like,
and this was not free.
It's not free. And so I'm just tangent. How we got into the project, really, I'm grateful for my team, man. I'm grateful for my team. Of course, I worked with Mav, but even before Mav, when I started putting out those singles in 2019, I had my close friend and manager, Shagun, and there's a couple other people.
He's a great guy.
Yeah. We work closely together, and they helped me put up my music onto whatever it was, TuneCore, CD Baby, just get it out there. And as we kind of kept growing, and as more opportunities came my way, I was kind of faced with, hey, I could bring people into my life to help me steward this, but man, Seg and Lloyd and these people, they'd been my roommates through college. Like, I know their character. Like, I know their character. You can't steal from me. Like, I know your mom's phone number. You know,
I know where you live.
I know where
your mom lives.
And I knew that they were for me, and they believed in me beyond this newfound success. And so we really we got close, and we're like, hey, like, what's the Lord saying, and who can we work with, and how can we, do something that feels fresh? And, especially when you're diving into solo artistry, you want to be careful not to really try and recreate what you did in the group. Like, the group already did that.
Right.
So you don't need to recreate and try and sound like that exact same song. You want to find out what the Lord is saying to you and how he wants to do it through you. And so that kind of began the journey. And, I'm from Canada, I'm from Toronto. So I started working with a lot of the homies in Canada and creating music with producers, Jordan Manswell, Kofo. There's like a gang of people. And, taking stuff I'd like written in like my quiet time. Like I'd written, Abba, you. Like I wrote that.
That
like,
was in your quiet time?
I just wrote that in my quiet time.
Bangers in the quiet time. My gosh.
That's so funny. It just became something, celebrate that story about, you know. And so just really recollecting my experience really over the past like 4 or 5 years and everything God had done from me getting saved to me becoming this worship leader, songwriter, to joining Maverick City. And it was just like really encompassing all of that and really telling a story and just things I'd seen him do in my family. And so that gave us the Project Restore. And we just kind of been going ever since, really. But it was a self-discovery process. And I'm just really thankful that the Lord brought it that way.
Man, I love that. Literally, Restore album. I'm not even kidding. I think I put it on my Instagram. Now, I'm not a Spotify user. I know some of y'all like, wow, are you even saved? But I'm an Apple Music user. Hey, but it was like my most listened to album of last year. Like that was because it came out in the summer, right? Like it was a summer vibe. Man, I would bump Baba was like I think my favorite on there. And just like you could vibe to it, but it was like theologically sound music that has a bop, man. Yeah, refreshing. Absolutely. It's not just this like stretching the text. It's like no, it's like it's the truth. Yeah. But man, and then temple, like just literally, it's talking about Corinthians like being the temple of God, but it's to a beat you can just like do this. Yeah, I was like, man, you got Madison Ward. And it was just it was so. I was like, man, this doesn't sound like anything I've heard before. Yeah. And yet it sounds something I've heard before. You know what I mean? It's like you know, it's like. It's something that's easy to catch on to. It's not complicated, but it's fresh. It feels fresh and like you said, like I'm glad you took that route and not just tried to recreate another Maverick moment. You know what I mean? And that you probably could have. Yeah. But you ended up doing that. You branched it to a lane that like, all right, now everybody's doing an Afro beats remix and like they're doing, you know, but like I'm not saying you pioneered that, but you know what I mean? I think it was a fresh way of like. It was worship, and it had something that was just new and fresh about it. I thought it was an incredible expression.
It was interesting because going into that, I was really fighting to make sure that my heart still shines through, that it still feels worshipful. Yeah. Because I mean, I didn't want anyone to hear it and be like, oh. He's like abandoned us or he's lost his way or he's trying to, you know, and those are the things that I was thinking through is like, hey, the people who really rock with me, who may have encountered me through Keep Praying or Still Holy. And as much as I still lead worship, I lead at my church, I still put out worship songs and all that. But I am taking a fun approach. I hope they don't see it for something else. And I think it all went well. I think you could feel, as you're saying, I think the songs are fun, but you strip it away and you listen to it, it can really minister to you. Oh, like my Restore, goodness. Abide, Temple.
Surrounded.
Yeah.
Man, listen, when I tell you, and it's cool that like I can text him and tell him this. Yeah. There were songs that it got me through seasons. Surrounded got me through some seasons, bro. New every morning. Yes, sir. Many tears have been wept over some Restore. Yes, sir. Noah's Flood. I can go on and on of like, there were songs where like in my midnight hour, I needed something to hang on to. Wow. And it's just wild to like, I can text the guy who wrote it and just like, and express my things. There's many a times I texted you of like, bro, like I'm literally like crying, listening to Surrounded right now. My dad loves Surrounded. Oh, and shout out to him. Yeah, the bishop. But man, it's just it's the influence of music will never go away. Yes, sir. And it's incredible. Yeah, like you taking that step of faith. I mean, I guess what has been the biggest surprise for you branching out on your own? And again, I hope this can be inspiring and encouraging because like, again, you're following this journey from 2019. This is not a long time, but it's like, I think it's proof of like, you let God build it in 6 years, man, like, I don't know if you even saw yourself doing a solo tour and a solo album that's like winning awards and doing all this different stuff and it's touching so many lives. Like, what surprised you the most?
I think what surprised me the most is all the testimonies I've heard. People who have like slipped away from the church, but somehow encountered the song, or people who are going through tough patches in their marriage or in their health. There's a lady I met in Toronto, and she had cancer, and that project was what she played through her chemotherapy.
Bro.
And she was finally cancer free.
Woo!
But to hear that it was a part of her process.
Oh, that's crazy.
Mind blowing. To hear that, some people who are teachers play the songs in classrooms for their kids during like study time. It's just, you don't even fully know when you're just walking in obedience and you're singing something early in the morning or a little voice note, and you send it to someone like, hey, I think there might be something here.
Yeah.
The stories that get attached to it on the other side. Because I would really say in this field, that's how like I'm defining success. Someone asked me at the Junos, they're like, well, you're not a traditional secular artist. So how would you define success? Because it's not just in streams. Of course, there are streams. It's not just in awards. Of course, there are awards. But it's really in the impact. Like the impact in people's lives is number one for me. It's number one. Everything else is incredible. Of course, I'm grateful for it. But the impact, the real life-changing impact in people's lives, that's what we really do it for. So, yeah.
Man. And I can say, I mean, it's a rarity because I know that's not true for many people.
Wow.
That's their objective. You know what I mean? Like, that's not their one. It's like, yeah, and it helped me buy this Benz. And so I'm really grateful. You know what I mean? Like,
Fair.
And it's like,
Fair.
That's a beautiful posture to have. Like the fact that, again, like, this whole show is about showing you models of examples of how to build God's way, that it's possible. You have to first see it's possible.
Yeah.
And that's why I bring people who have excelled in the marketplace, whatever, like you've excelled
Yes, sir.
in the music business and you are excelling.
Thank you.
And it's like, and still with that same posture, it's like, now no one is without excuse. You can't say, oh man, well, just the industry made me this way. It's like, oh, no. Let me show you an example.
There's a
no.
proof of concept.
There's another way. Yeah, there's a proof of concept. There is a case study that you can see of someone's life of like, here's the things that he's been able to do, touring literally like a international tour that you were able to do.
Yeah.
All these collabs, all these different things that God's been able to put in your path. And I still see you on a Sunday. You're in small groups. You're praying for people in the front row, like picking up trash. Like, you can. You don't have to be a jerk when you make it. You know what I mean? It is possible. That's really what I'm trying to get the essence of showing people that it's possible.
What I love too is that, I think as we walk through this as people who are entrepreneurs and business owners and creatives, there's a something probably within us that makes you feel like, all right, let me make this happen. Let me try harder, because if I can strive for this, I can get on a good playlist or and on a bigger tour or increase my earnings, whatever it may be. Let me do it by my own power. And what I love that I've witnessed firsthand is before I can even try to do something, God's like, I got you. Like I got you. He makes ways. He provides. He like literally blows our imagination, like more than we can ask, think, or even imagine. And that's with opportunities. That's with collaborations that you're not looking for. Like there's things that he does, and I think that is proof of walking with him. And sometimes taking the road that's like, this may feel harder. As someone who is rooted in their faith, so you're not necessarily working and accepting every single thing. You don't take every single opportunity. You don't walk through every single door, but God really has your back because he is the one who's called you into it. So he's funding that vision. He's bringing those things to reality. And so that's something for anyone who's listening. I think that's one massive thing that the Lord's really been teaching me in this season. It's like, I've got you. Like I really got you. If I called you to this, I've got your back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, that's powerful.
Yes, sir.
That's powerful. I think, and I think some of it's like, do we believe that? And like what I mean by that is like, do we believe if you build God's way, in a way of integrity, that God will honor that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times what we see of, and it's funny. It's like, and I've shared this analogy on the show all the times of like, you know, the parable of the one that built his house on the rock, built his house on the sand. Both houses look fine until the storm comes. Both houses look perfectly fine.
They
look good. You only know when the foundation is shaking until, you know what I mean, what it was built on. And so I think it's like, do we really believe that God will build his house, will build your music business?
Yeah.
Like, and he will grow it how he desires it. And when you do it the right way. Yeah. And I think there's times where it's like, oh man, like, no, like if you really want to make it, you got to do all these compromises. You got to compromise. And I don't think there's any other industry where, I mean, there's a lot of industries where there's a lot of compromise.
Absolutely.
But like the music business is one that's like, it tends to have the most compromise of like, man, you will do anything for that handshake, anything to get in that room, anything to be in the, like, look, sell your soul, do whatever it takes to just make it. If it's showing skin, it's showing skin. If it's doing it, like, you know, like whatever it is, just so I can make it, I can get there.
Wow.
And it's like, do we actually believe that, like you said, God will do it?
Yeah.
If you do it the right way.
It's crazy because I think that a lot of building on the sand versus building on the rock is us not doing it solely for the Lord, because it's I want everyone to see it. Woo! I want you to see. So wherever I can build, I'm going to build. I want everyone to see it. And it's like, I'm going to hide the foundation. I just want to get the structure up. But it doesn't stand. It doesn't stand the test of time. It doesn't last because it's not built on something firm. It's not built on something sturdy. It may not be the right time. It may not be the right environment. It may not be the right place. And so what I'm increasingly learning is, more so than building to be seen, build because you were instructed. You know what I mean?
Hold on. Don't build to be seen.
Build because you're instructed. Build because you're instructed. And that's what Noah had when he was building. He was instructed. So he was building. He looked silly. I'm sure people were laughing at him. People were like, bro, come on, we live in the Middle East.
What are you talking about? Water.
We don't water. You know, we live in the Middle East, and the environment isn't conducive for what you're doing, but he was acting on a word that he had heard. And so he was building, he kept building, he was faithful and diligent with what he was building despite the naysayers, because he knew that he was sent on a word. He wasn't doing it to look good. You get me? And I think that's a thing in our day and age with a lot of social media and a lot of likes and followers and counts and all these things. It's very easy to build things to look good. Like, I want to look good. I want them to appreciate me. I want them to see like, oh, I really, really am him. And I just love, I mean, we're all growing and we're all learning. I love that the Lord is stripping these things really out of my heart and out of my life because I want to build his way. There's nothing to gain from building the most beautiful thing, and then one storm comes.
All it takes is one.
And it all falls down. So.
And we're all one storm away from exposing what the foundation was.
100%.
We're all one storm away. And that could be life circumstance. It could be sin.
Yeah.
It could be, honestly, even one thing, it could be who you associate with.
Yes.
Of like, maybe like, you might, you know, not be doing anything bad necessarily, but because you're like, man, you're not even operating in discernment because you want to get there fast, wherever there is. You attach yourself to, like, especially in music, something can be hot and not in a very short amount of time. And even just like what God's blessing and what God's doing is like, man, I want to just attach myself to the brand or to the name or to the thing. And then it's like, well, if they fall, hey, like, you, by association, you're now seen in that, you know what I mean? 100%. And it's like, man, like, we're all one storm away. And it's like, what are we building? How are we building? And are we building to be seen? Or are we building because based on the instruction? Man, I think that is.
I'd rather build slow. I'd rather build slow than build fast. I'd rather build slow and be in his will than build fast and it be one storm away.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We could be there for an hour.
Absolutely.
Man, because I'll say this, well, maybe we'll kind of land the plane on this. If you had to give advice to someone who was listening, they want to they feel a call to the Christian music space, whether it's worship, whether could be R&B, hip hop, Afro beats, whatever. They feel a call to make music for the Lord.
Yeah.
They want to make it their career. There's nothing bad with that. They want to make money. There's nothing bad with that, right?
Absolutely.
What would you, especially as I feel like what we're navigating right now in the Christian music space is just very interesting. And it's like, I think we're seeing a lot of things exposed. I think there's a lot of good conversations happening, but there's still a lot of, honestly, like a lot of just sin. Like that we're seeing, and just a lot of pride.
In Jesus' name.
It's just a lot of crazy.
No cap.
And we've heard stories of just like, whoa, some people out here that you are listening to, you don't even know the type of lifestyle they're living or what they're doing. Are they faithful to their spouses? Like it is. What would you give wisdom to someone that's like, they're about to come into these waters, and you're like, hey, I want you to know what you're getting into before you get into it.
100%.
What wisdom would you give them before they get into it?
I love the verse, which is Hebrews 12, and it talks about the race set before us, and it says we're surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses.
Yep.
It then says, drop the sin that so easily entangles you. It says to run the race that you've been called to run, and to be always looking towards Jesus, who's the author and the perfecter of our faith.
Yes, sir.
I love it because I think of it, what we're called to do. Everybody has a race. And I think where we get caught up is not realizing we're surrounded. Like there's people who are cheering you on, but there's also people who are just looking. Like you are a person of influence. So keep that in your heart, keep that in your mind. You are running this race, but it's so easy to look at what someone else is doing. And that could be someone who's doing a really good thing or someone who's doing a really bad thing. But as you run your race and you're looking in someone else's lane, you actually veer off and end up in their lane. So you need to, very easily, where your eyes are fixed is the direction that you'll head in. And so our eyes need to be fixed on Jesus at all times, in good times and bad times, because he is the one that is leading us. He is the goal. He is the prize. And it's not a path that comes without sacrifice. It's not a path that comes without hard times. Jesus endured because of the cross that was set before him.
Yes.
And so for us, we have to, what are the things I'm going to have to endure? I may not always be understood. I may not always be popular. I may not always have the most, but I know what I'm called to. And so I'm going to stick to the path. I'm going to stick to the path that he's called me to. And so I'd say Hebrews 12, like meditate on that day and night. It's a massive blessing for me as a believer, as a worship leader, as an entrepreneur, all the things.
Man, that analogy of if you are, it happens. I see people when they drive. It's like it's a straight path, but if your eyes, like if you're looking at an exit and you're like, oh, you're just doing this, you will go naturally in the direction that your eyes go. It's just gonna naturally, you're naturally just gonna follow that.
And once you leave your lane, you're disqualified. If you're in a race and you leave your lane, you're kicked out.
Oh my gosh!
You're disqualified. Yeah.
You're disqualified because you looked the wrong way. Man, I think that. I just love Selah moments. I think that just needs to hang in there because it's
Yes, sir.
Yeah, who are you? Why are you running? And what are you running for?
What are you running for?
And I think it's so crucial, because there is that innate desire of like, hey, we have this window.
Yeah.
And I have to make it. This is my time.
Wow.
Right? I got my music, this.
Yeah.
I gotta, and you can compare yourself to others really easily. And it's like, yeah, man, like I don't even know full Rita Springer story, but I didn't learn about Rita Springer until Defender.
Wow. Same.
And she was already in like her 40s maybe at that time. Like you have no idea when the rain's gonna come.
Yeah.
But I'd rather him be the one that does it.
Yeah.
Than I force my way in this door.
Yeah.
And now I don't even have what it takes to sustain it. And you disqualify. And here's the thing. I think, and this is what my challenge is for Faith Hustle. We're not even saying, the downside is that it doesn't work. The downside is actually like it could work. But like blessing is not necessarily just money or streams, because you can have all that and have nothing
and still be empty.
Ask Quincy Jones. I'll never forget this. I'll end it on this.
Wow.
I've watched the Quincy Jones documentary on Netflix multiple times. Very inspiring. The guy was insanely hard worker. He worked himself literally almost to death several times, where like he almost had like a massive like heart attack, like his heart almost exploded.
Whoa.
And but he did so much, produced for Michael Jackson, was responsible for so many people's careers, from music to film, like Will Smith and all these different people, right? And someone asked him in an interview, okay, you've done so many things. What's one, like Frank Sinatra, all this different, what's one thing like you're not good at? You're good at so many things. He was like, honestly, marriage.
Whoa.
And he had like 3 failed marriages.
Whoa. And
just like he could figure everything else out. He could not figure that part out. Wow. And I was like, man, you can technically, like, I think that the hint that is from God, God's not going to bless you with something, and your relationship with him and your relationship with others is now at risk.
Yeah.
It's like, that doesn't sound like something that God's blessing. That sounds like a little bit of humanity, a little flesh got in there.
100%.
Because if it's from God, it's going to draw me closer to him.
100%.
Like, Jesus accomplished so much, and he stayed spiritually healthy, and his relationships were healthy. So it's like, I think a sign of God's blessing is not just it works, it's that everything around you is also blessed.
It's prosperous.
And so it's like, but if we're just wanting this part and not wanting this, you'll learn very quickly. Those divorce settlements, all this different stuff, they get real. You're like, man, what did I actually even gain?
Wow.
You know, and so that's what I'm after. And that's what I believe you model so well, bro.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother.
Man, this was so fun. I had a lot of questions, but honestly, like we hit almost all of them.
Yeah.
This was so good. Is there any last things that you're like in your heart that you want to share?
I think what you said is crucial. I just remember being on that Kirk tour.
Yeah.
And was it the Kirk tour? I can't remember now. But it was one of those tours. And I just remember going to the hotel room and like standing in front of 10,000 people and being like, oh shoot, this is empty. You know, it's like it can be very, very empty if the whole purpose of it was for you to reach to a place. You'll get there and realize you want to be more built up internally than you want to be built up externally. And I mean, this was before, I think it was before I got married or I was living with Pris. And I just really vowed to myself, like my family, my friends, the people that mean the world to me, I'm going to be like as locked in as I can with them. Of course, you're still going to be busy. You're going to have seasons that look different and all of this, but you're going to be there for the moments that matter. You're going to look them in their eyes. You're going to let them know how much you care about them, because you don't want to trade that off. You don't want to trade off wellness for an appearance that really can fade away. And so I think everything you said is spot on. And I'm just grateful for you, brother. I'm grateful for you, grateful for this podcast. It's helping so many people grow and get better and do business God's way. And yeah, you're a massive blessing.
Man, I appreciate you, man. I often get to tell you you're at my birthday dinner, and I get to celebrate with. Actually, I was at your birthday dinner last year too.
Yeah, we locked in.
Yeah, we locked in, man. But like, I just want to say thank you, man, for being such a great friend. Like I said, I literally would not be at the church I'm at, which is my covering, without you, and just so many different things that your encouragement and just advice and wisdom, and I'm grateful for you, man. I'm excited for all the new stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if you got. You just came out with the EP.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure you're working on other songs.
Yeah, we're nonstop.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
But man, I appreciate you, bro. Thank you for being on, man.
Likewise. Love, brother.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of the Faith Hustle podcast. We hope you felt challenged, encouraged, and equipped to walk out your faith hustle. And if you enjoyed this episode, we encourage you to subscribe to the podcast, whether you're listening on YouTube or any audio platform. As well, leave us a review. It helps us so much in our ratings so we can get the word out to more people. Each week we have these conversations with business owners who build their business God's way. And so we look forward to growing with you on your faith hustle journey. We'll see you next time.